All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heart to Heart. I wanted to talk a little about the screensaver here. It's a Luna moth that symbolizes transformation and new beginnings. And because it's a nocturnal creature, it uses the moon to guide itself to fly in a straight line. So navigating by the light in the darkness. And particularly, I wanted to make note of the golden heart in the center, which is our golden heart. And I think Luna moths are magic and mysterious and remind us to that life is precious and short and to seek out the beauty. So you can take that image down, Joe. And this is a talk about coming home. And when I say that, I mean coming home to yourself, whether it's that golden heart in the center, the diamond, whatever you call it. It's the part, the center of us all that never changes. And it came to me when I was at Loose Leaf Hollow for our in-person gathering. And I would have missed it completely if I didn't have a good teacher who pointed it out to me. So thank you, Joe. I think it kind of illustrates how important it is to have people walking with you who can help you notice the things that you might not normally pay attention to. I had an animal totem join me on that retreat. It was a turtle, and I always know it's if a sign comes to me in three, that's when I know I need to pay attention. And so this turtle surprised me 3 different times in 3 different ways. And it reminded me years ago, I had a friend who's also a spiritual teacher. And she told me that I'm like a turtle. And of course, I was like, what do you mean, slow? Thanks. But she said, no, turtles carry their homes with them wherever they go, their shell. And I'm that way. I carry my home with me wherever I go. And that, of course, is my heart. And that was really comforting to me in a way. I needed someone to tell me that because all my life, I have really tried to adopt myself into other people's families. I'm always looking for the place I belong. And where I belong is right here. As I do before any talk, I also went to my goddess card deck. You guys have seen this before. And I laid them out and I randomly pulled a card, and it was the goddess Hestia, who is the goddess of sanctuary. And her slogan, her phrase is, no matter where I am home. The most sacred sanctuary is found within me. So that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to read to you a spoken word poem in 3 parts. I'm going to read it twice. The first time I'm just going to read it through. I'll try to read it slowly since I tend to go a little too fast. And then the second time, I will read it with some comments. So here we go. Part 1, question. Dread sat next to me on the cushion. I invited it in, just like Rumi says to do. Foreboding joy. What is it that sits in between, blocking the rays of the sun? What is the message, the information that needs to come forward? Allow. Make conditions right for the information to be revealed. Emerging from the mist. Dantian, the mysterious, murky darkness. Part 2, response. Don't say a fucking word. The threat. I feel that viscerally. Did anyone actually say that to me? I don't think so. Not explicitly anyway, but message received. And now, message rejected. Throwing up that introject I unknowingly swallowed eons ago. looking out the window of my eyeballs, surveying the scene, arranging my face, stuffing down any alarm. That was a strategy that worked for a long time to keep me safe in a hostile environment. Part 3, something that hasn't been done before. That frozen alert state is a fallback option now. Time to thaw, time to discern from within, to trust my inner compass, shifting from outer awareness and adjusting accordingly to inner awareness and trusting that it will always lead me to the right place. A guide for safety and more than that, joy, delight. It will not steer me wrong, even if it seems crazy or vastly different from what's regular, normal, average, and the safety of blending in. So I'll take a couple breaths and then I'll read that again. Part 1, question. Dread sat next to me on the cushion. I invited it in just like Rumi says to do. Of course, I'm talking about Rumi's guest house here. And it was so odd. Of course, I wanted to not have dread because my goal of this retreat was to welcome in joy. And who showed up but dread? So, of course, I didn't want dread there, but Rumi teaches us that we welcome in everything that knocks in the door because it may be coming with some new delight. And emotions have information. That dread was coming from somewhere. Also, it's, this is how we work with anxiety. Instead of stuffing the monster back in the closet where it can just become bigger and bigger and bigger, we open the door and we look to see. We turn on the light and we look to see what's in there. Foreboding joy. What is it that sits in between, blocking the rays of the sun? Well, the rays of the sun is a reference to Thomas Merton, all shining like the sun. What is between me and seeing all of myself and everyone else shining like the sun? That inner diamond, that self that never changes, the absolute truth. What is the message? The information that needs to come forward. Allow, make conditions ripe for the information to be revealed. So I realized this is how I pray. I ask a question and then I create like a fertile ground where the answer can take hold. That's what happened when I asked the question, where do I go when I feel despair? And the answer was immediate, loose leaf hollow. So I've wondered about this for a long time. I don't understand it, but that's exactly what it is. I am in a place of completely, I don't know, and I just become receptive to whatever comes through. Emerging from the mist, Dantian, the mysterious murky darkness. Dantian is not a word I use. I am not familiar with Tai Chi. I don't know anything about Chinese medicine. So this is not coming from my brain. This is coming from someplace else. And it does use language that I can understand. I know that the Dantian is the lower chakras. I looked it up and the article I read said, from this place, all power that mobilizes the body originates. So from this place, all power originates. This is the gut. This is the unconscious. This is something that has never been known before. New possibilities. Part 2, response. Don't say a fucking word. Apologies for the cursing. If you thought this was going to be a lovey-dovey Mother's Day presentation, it's not. That is a brutal and violent story that Joe shared with me. And I think about simply being in a female body is brutal and violent. And, that's silencing that fear, using fear to keep people in their place. The threat, I feel that viscerally. Did anyone actually say that to me? I don't think so. Not explicitly, anyway. Not explicitly, anyway, but message received. Last week, Julie was talking about being in the all boys school, and she said somehow they knew, she and her sister knew that they were lesser than the boys. And I thought, I knew that too. How do I know that? It's in the air that we breathe. Don't say a fucking word. And now, message rejected. Throwing up that introject I unknowingly swallowed eons ago. Looking out the windows of my eyeballs, surveying the scene, arranging my face, stuffing down any alarm. This is the freeze state. This is how I learned to stifle my intuition, to cut myself off from my normal and natural reactions to abnormal situations. And by that, I really mean like life in the United States, being a 12-year-old little kid walking down the streets and getting catcalled. I'm a kid. Act natural, smile. You should smile more. Who hasn't heard that? This was a strategy that worked for a long time, keeping me safe in a hostile environment. The hostile environment is this culture, and it's relative safety. It is perceived safety. It is the safety that comes from abandoning myself and aligning myself with the dominant group, which is not actually safe at all. Part 3, something that hasn't been done before. So the last few weeks, I've been listening to a book by Megan Watterson. It's The Acts of Paul and Thecla. This was a gospel that was not included in the Bible. And Thecla was a young girl whose act of courage was to do something that had not been done before. And that was to follow her heart and live the life that she chose, rather than the one that culture and society would have had her live. She decided to follow Paul and not get married. So she was a bad daughter. She was a bad wife. She was a bad woman in that culture. And so that was a courageous act. She did something that had not been done before. That frozen alert state is a fallback option now. Time to thaw. Time to discern from within. Trust my inner compass. And this part, those 3 lines, are all about returning to home, which is myself. The old thing is to survey the scene. Who do I need to be in order to fit your idea of who I should be? What outfit do I have to put on? What persona do I need to wear? Shifting from outer awareness and adjusting accordingly. Exactly what I just said. To inner awareness and trusting that it will always lead me to the right place. A guide for safety, and more than that, joy and delight. It will not steer me wrong, even if it seems crazy or vastly different from what's regular, normal, average, and the safety of blending in. This, I really think about like the herd mentality, like just keep my head down and blend in with everybody else. Don't get noticed. I can also hear my self-critique here, calling what I might want to do crazy. It makes me think of when I was thinking about moving to Asheville, and I didn't tell anyone because I was sure they would all think I was nuts. And I didn't, I judged myself as nuts before they all had a chance to. But I didn't want to hear anyone tell me that that's crazy. And I can hear the echoes of the critique handed down from generations of women who would say, no, like, no, you stay in line. That's what my parents or this culture might say. And that's how I keep myself caged with my own thoughts and judgments. Thekla's own mother called her crazy for refusing the expectations of society to be a good daughter, a good wife, and a mother. And this is how we keep each other trapped. So as the scales fall from my eyes and I see the machine at work, I have become clear that it runs on power and control. It profits off of fear. It's fueled by extraction and self-interest. It depends on people falling in line in the right order of importance. And we all have to numbly agree that this is how it is. In this machine, people lose their humanity. And it's not just women, men too. There are certain expectations. For women, female bodies are a type of currency that's to be used for a certain purpose. In the acts of Paul and Thekla, when Thekla refuses her expected roles, everybody freaks out because she's considered the property of her father. And think about that for a second. I haven't even really sat with that, like a thing, an object, the property of her father, to be passed on to her husband for the purpose of bearing children. Property isn't supposed to have an opinion about how its life is supposed to go. This dynamic dominates and informs everything and is embedded into our culture for centuries. And right now, it's falling apart. So I'm almost 30-year veteran of working in the domestic violence, intimate partner abuse sector. And I can tell you for sure, it's documented that when an abuser is their most dangerous and most lethal is when they're losing control. And so that's where we are right now. And that's the good news, and that's the bad news. The good news is we're leaving this abusive relationship that's called patriarchy. And I mean patriarchy as in the top-down hierarchy. We know historically wealthy white men are at the top. But if we gender it, we're going to miss the point. Women participate in this hierarchy too. I had a friend who campaigned for Hillary Clinton back in the day, and his complaint was that she was too masculine. And at the time, I argued that she had to be, like, this is how it is. But now I kind of look back and see, like, oh, I missed the point. I was paying attention to gender and how it is. We have to operate in this structure. But his point was that the structure needs to change. And I'll say this too, as a veteran in the intimate partner violence sphere, I can tell you that women are abusers too. So it is not just men, it is the system of power and control, one over the other. So the good news is we're leaving. The bad news is we're in it. And it's bad. People are dying. And I hate it. Every day, there's something new to be furious about. Every day, there's something new to weep over. This is true. There is no denying that this is hard. Hard, awful. We can't stop now. The only way out is through. That's the good news and the bad news. We're already in it. We can't stop now. You have to keep going. And I would say too, like we can't stop even if we wanted to. The momentum is already there. And as Joe says, evolution is only forward. So we rage at the injustice. We grieve the loss. But this part came to me from heart to heart, from my visit to Loose Leaf Hollow too. Even death is joyful when you're on the other side, when you're home. We are souls having a human experience. When we leave the body, we go back to where we came from. It's a homecoming, which is joyful for the soul. Let it go. The illusion of structure. Let it fall. The empire is not real. It's always been an illusion. There's no reason to try to keep it as it is. The point is to fall apart so that something new can emerge.